He kidnapped her in the middle of the night, and when Sarah woke up, a marriage contract was already waiting on the table. 40-year-old Sarah Mitchell lived a quiet life in the suburbs of Houston. She worked as a nurse in a military hospital and raised her daughter alone after the death of her husband who had served in the military. People around her respected her for her kindness and strength, but Sarah had no idea that for years she had been secretly watched by Lieutenant General Daniel Cross, one of the most powerful officers in the U.S. Army. They had met by chance several years earlier at a veterans' charity event in Washington. For Sarah, it was just a short and ordinary conversation. For Cross, it became the beginning of a dangerous obsession. He gathered information about her, learned her routines, her habits, and even her work schedule. One rainy evening, while Sarah was driving home after work, a black military SUV suddenly blocked her road. Armed men in masks dragged her out of the car and forced her inside. Sarah screamed and fought back, but they covered her mouth and injected her with a sedative. The last thing she saw before losing consciousness were the cold eyes of a man wearing a general's uniform. When Sarah finally opened her eyes, she found herself lying inside a large underground bunker somewhere in the desert of Nevada. The windows were covered with bars, the doors were made of steel, and on the table beside her lay a marriage contract already signed with her name printed on it. A few minutes later, General Cross entered the room. He stared at her as if she were the only person left in the world. Calmly, he told her that he had searched for her for years and would never allow her to disappear again. Sarah refused in horror even to touch the documents. But Cross slammed his fist onto the table so hard that a glass shattered into pieces. Then he leaned closer and whispered quietly, "You will become my wife, even if I have to keep you here for the rest of your life." The following days turned into a living nightmare for Sarah. She was kept inside a luxurious but completely isolated bunker guarded by armed soldiers. General Cross visited her every single day. He brought expensive dresses, flowers, and jewelry, acting as though they were already married. He spoke about a beautiful house near the ocean in San Diego, about a future together and a new life waiting for them. But Sarah saw something terrifying in his eyes, a man who had completely lost the line between love and madness. One evening, Cross brought a priest into the bunker and ordered him to prepare a wedding ceremony right there underground. Sarah burst into tears and begged him to let her return to her daughter, but the general only gently touched her face and said that her daughter would remain safe only if Sarah stopped resisting him. That same night, Sarah noticed that one of the young guards felt sorry for her. When he brought food into her room, she quietly begged him for help. Nervously looking around, the young soldier whispered that the general had lost control of himself a long time ago and had already broken military orders because of her. He secretly handed Sarah a small phone and warned her that she would only have one chance. With trembling hands, Sarah called her sister in Texas and managed to say only one word: Nevada. At that exact moment, the bunker door suddenly flew open. Cross walked into the room and immediately understood what had happened. His face twisted with rage. The general grabbed the young guard by the collar and brutally beat him in front of Sarah while screaming that nobody would ever take her away from him. But later that same night, warning sirens suddenly echoed across the base. The sound filled the entire bunker. Seconds later, a massive explosion shook the walls and the steel doors were blown off their hinges. A U.S. military police special forces unit had launched an assault on the base after tracing the phone signal. Cross pulled out a pistol and ordered Sarah to run away with him. But for the first time, she looked directly into his eyes and said, "This isn't love. You just wanted to break me." Her words seemed to destroy something inside him. Slowly, the general lowered his weapon. Seconds later, Special Forces officers slammed him to the ground. When Sarah was finally led out of the bunker, beneath the bright sunlight of the Nevada desert, she saw her daughter running toward her in tears. And at that moment, Sarah realized she had finally escaped the worst nightmare of her entire life.